and welcome to Logan Sounds Off. Today I'm interviewing the one and only Josh Homme. Josh, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm brilliant, thank you for asking. So, for those who don't know you or aren't familiar with Queen's Stone Age or Kyuss, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I I am a guitar player and a singer and a drummer and sometimes bass player, and I make records and try to make as good records as I can make.
That's a brilliant way to put it. And then you were born and you grew up in the 70s and 80s in America, and at that time there was a massive music scene, a lot of genres coming out, a lot of different kind of songs. But what was there? Because for me it was One Inch Man that got me into music, and that was like, whoa. But was there any song like that for you that you just went, wow, what is this, and got you into music?
Yeah, I think early on listening to The Doors. So the strange thing about The Doors is the makeup of the band. It's a flamenco guitar player, Spanish style guitar player who'd just been playing for about 18 months. A jazz type of drummer, an organist, and someone who, was quite beautiful but fancied themselves a poet. And that, the strange makeup of that made for strange music. And that was the first time I ever remember being scared by music. You ever listen to anything that's almost, it's so moody, it's almost terrifying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
Sometimes songs are so ominous that you just think that it's just a bit scary.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that?
I've actually had that feeling before with a couple of songs, yeah.
Nice.
But I wouldn't mind. I love the songs sometimes, but they're just really, really weird.
Yeah.
So, you are fundamentally one of the most important parts of the stoner rock genre. I mean, really important. So, how did you get onto the music scene in the first place?
Well, I've always been walking around and hearing things in my head, and I think when I heard punk rock music like Exploited or GBH or Black Flag or things like that, or Minor Threat, or the Misfits, I wanted to. I realized you could play as well, and I realized I could play that stuff. And I also was walking around sort of to the beat of my own drummer. I was hearing sounds in my head, and I realized if I want to, I can actually play what I'm hearing. When I walk around town here, you walk at a pace, or if the windshield wipers are going, they're going in a rhythm, and I just started, the windshield wipers would go, and I would go, So I just feel that music's just always been there, and so I think a bit maybe you're mining it out of yourself.
That's a very interesting outlook to have on life, being able to see the music. That's really cool. And then obviously one of the biggest things you've done is your work with the band Kyuss. And I love Kyuss, as I mentioned earlier, One Inch Man. I love the song. But how did the band come about? And I don't mean where you were friends in school, because I know that. But when was it like that you sat down and just decided to start making music? Or was it a bit more, or was it different to that? How did it really start?
Well, at the time, living in the desert, there wasn't when you're 12, you're 12.
Yeah.
If you're into something, you're into music, and the music you're into, you might not have a lot of friends that are into the same music. And so that really bonds you together, because you have this thing that you share that feels like it's yours, because it's not mainstream, So it really just came together from loving bands like Black Flag and things like that. And there's only a few of us that like this.
Yeah.
And then you think, well, the whole message of like Black Flag or Minor Threat, they had their own record labels. So they were saying do it yourself. And that message was really clear for us. And so we were friends already. We liked the same music. we started playing instruments, and it just sort of naturally, it felt like that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to play together, you know?
I get what you're saying. That's really cool. And then before Queen's Stone Age and before all that, you were touring with Screaming Trees, which is very interesting because I didn't know about that for a little while. I only found out about it recently. So how was touring with the Screaming Trees?
You know, part of the reason I did that was because I'd only been in Kyuss, and we had a lot of rules in Kyuss because we were kids, and we wanted it to be pure, and we wanted it to be for the love of music. And when I quit Kyuss, I thought I need to just try different things I've never tried before. I've been so, I've been working so hard to insulate myself that I thought I need to work hard to do the opposite. And when the Screaming Trees were looking to just add a guitar player to go on one tour, it was only supposed to be for one tour. I thought, I've never been a hired gun before. A hired gun is like you're just you're a solo musician. You're hired to help some band, you know, do a tour or something. And I also thought that anyone that was into Kyuss would think it would be strange that I would do this. And so I've spent a lot of time in my life saying it feels like I'm not supposed to go this direction, so I think I will. So, you know, just trying new things, you know.
That's a great outlook on life, to change it up a bit. And then then you started off, you tried something with Queen's Stone Age, and you're still doing it, and it's been a massive success. And when you released your second LP, Rachador, you got a massive response. It was very big in the community, and it's still a very well-known record to this day. But why do you think it got that response? What do you think it was that clicked with people?
I think that's a great question, because that's absolutely true. And so on the first record, the idea was to do it singularly, like just focus almost on one thing. So the first record is very sort of, my thought was trance, be like a robot, just repeat these riffs over and over until they're like a trance, which is very much like dance music. And but the music was sort of heavy, not really on purpose, just because that's how I felt. I felt like playing something heavy and trancey and dancey, you know? And then instead of, there are a lot of bands that kind of scream and yell, but that's not really my way. And that's not what my voice does. So I just let my voice be what it was, which was softer, right? And then for Rated R, I thought, well, I can't repeat what I've done in the first record, so I should try to take everything I love, every influence, and almost like going to a buffet, getting a little bit of this, a little bit of whipped cream, a little bit of gravy, and you start realizing this may look strange, like a strange plate of all this stuff, but I believe in myself, and I love all these things. I think there's a way to mix all these things and make something that tastes great. You know, I think having that belief that your recipe will work, even if it sounds a little bit disgusting, even if the idea sounds disgusting, the reality of it is that you're mixing things together to your own taste, and you're trying to make something that you love. See, it helped to shape me, but I want to bring something up. In the beginning, you know, when I was playing music, the older kids around me and stuff like that, it's natural to be afraid of what you're doing. It's scary to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, you ask yourself, can I do this? Or you say to yourself, I'm afraid. Can I still do this even though I'm afraid? And I think early on, to protect myself, sometimes I would take these big chances, but I would pretend I didn't care. I would be like, I don't care, you know, I don't even care. But that's not the right way. Like now I understand so much that you have to find the things you really love and just do those. That way, when you're afraid to do them, it's okay because it's something that you love. It may be difficult to do. You may fail or make a mistake, but you love it, so it's worth trying and it's worth doing, you know? I think of that when I just look at what you're doing here. You know, you're doing something you love.
Yeah.
And you're starting just from a place of saying, well, I love this, so I want to do it. And so you can skip the step that I went through where I had to pretend I don't even care, you know? Because that step, that it helped to shape me, sure, but if you can skip that step and just continue doing what you love, then you never work a day in your life, you know? Because you're just focusing on the things you care about, and you end up bonding with people. We're bonding right now because we both care about music.
Yeah.
So we're bonding about what we like, and I just think that's really cool. I think what you're doing is really cool.
That is that's a really cool way to even look. We're doing an interview now. You've done a lot of interviews with a lot of different people, and you've expressed this view of things a lot, and I think that's great because to live a life like that is very important for a person. And you're mentioning there with Rage Door that you said, oh, I need to try something different from my debut album. That's very interesting because the difference between your debut album, Rage Door, and Songs for the Deaf, as you know, are significant. Mm-hmm. Even on Songs for the Deaf, Dave Grohl played with you guys, and first of all, that's really cool. But second of all, what's it like to play with these amazing musicians on your record?
That's a great question. Well, the first, there's a question maybe before that, which is, how do you get the chance to play with musicians that you admire? And I think again, it's about being willing to take the risk on yourself, being willing to say that I may not be the best at this thing, but I'm doing this thing in a way that I care about, and that makes it interesting because you're sort of just being yourself, you know? Being yourself is just admitting that you're gonna be the first person on your own team to support yourself. And I think the only way that I've been able to play with such incredible musicians, I hope it's because they say this is a person that's playing like themselves, just being themselves, you know. Because I want to look at Dave Grohl, such a great drummer, and he plays drums so unlike everyone else. I'll give you an example. Because Dave is a songwriter, when he plays drums, he plays. It's easy to talk about drum parts with him, and he comes up with drum parts as well. So you could come up with some drum parts, he can come up with them, and you get excited because those drum parts are as musical as a guitar riff or a bass riff or a vocal, you know?
Yeah.
And it makes a difference when you listen to Dave play, you hear someone that's playing drums as a songwriter, and so even though like John Bonham is one of his favorite drummers, he's not copying his inspiration.
Yeah.
The inspiration he's taking from John Bonham is playing like himself. I should do that too. I should play like myself, you know?
Yeah.
And ultimately, I suppose in its own way, that leads to playing with guys like John Paul Jones. You know, imagine Bonham's your favorite drummer, and then someday you end up playing with John Paul Jones in a band. It's just, well, it's just fucking cool, honestly.
Well, being yourself is very important, and I know we've had some very deep, you've had some very deep answers here.
We're both gonna have our glasses on.
Perfect. But this is very interesting here. Being yourself, Queen Stone Age have always been a very unique band. The meaning behind everything has been very strange, but in a good way. For example, and when I heard about this...
Wait, what do you mean? Well, let's hear what you mean.
When I mean strange, I mean they're unique. They're not like any other band.
Well, I like the word strange.
Like any other band.
I like the word strange because sometimes, you know, my grandpa always used to say, if you can't outsmart people, outdumb them, which I think is a really interesting technique. And from there, I've sort of realized if you can't outsmart people, outweird them. sometimes it's great to do something a bit strange. It feels good. You're almost like, I suppose it's the equivalent to dancing. You become a good dancer at the minute that you stop caring about what it looks like to dance, right?
Yeah.
That's the moment you become a good dancer, right? But that's the moment you start dancing like yourself. Okay, so sorry. Go ahead. You were saying something.
No. That totally. We kind of needed to highlight that. But during an SNL performance, and this was very funny because I saw the clip of this and I went, whoa. Will Ferrell came out when you guys were playing Little Sister and reenacted a kind of spoof with, for those who haven't seen the clip or don't know what it was, there was a clip with Will Ferrell in it, which was Blue Oyster Cult, and they were doing Don't Fear the Reaper, but because of the cowbell, Will Ferrell was bouncing about, hitting this cowbell, and during Little Sister at an SNL performance, he came out and did that, but with you guys, live.
Right.
Was this planned, or was it just a bit of fun?
That's another good question. Very good question. It's always. I didn't realize that when they did SNL, there's two shows. They do a full dress rehearsal. They try extra skits, and they decide sort of which skits they're going to cut to make the show the right length live. And so, I had known Will a little bit from before, and we happened to have this song that demanded more cowbell, and so he told me he was going to do that, and then in the dress rehearsal of playing Little Sister with him coming out, I lost it. I started laughing. I couldn't contain myself. I messed up the guitar solo. I couldn't keep it together, partially because Will was so serious. And you got to remember, he was in every sketch on that show. So it was exhausting, right? He was in everything. And then he was in the musical guest, and he was sweating. Part of his beard was falling down. He had sort of bounced his body where his shirt had come up and his belly was out. And so I lost it. And frankly, I would have been satisfied with that version going out too, because it was just so funny and it was just a moment, right? So when the real version, the real live taping of it went out, of course I knew he was coming, and and he and I agreed that no, we wouldn't smile or laugh or anything.
You just wouldn't react.
Well, it was so helpful to have gone through that dress rehearsal, you know, because looking at Will Ferrell sweating with his belly out on the cowbell was impossible. But so the second time I managed to keep a straight face.
Yeah, if you even see the clip, I definitely search it up. Josh, you keep a straight face throughout the whole thing. I was so surprised, because I'm one of those people who, when they start laughing, it turns into choking pretty soon, because I laugh so much.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is that I take the music really serious, but I don't take myself seriously. And you know, I've written a lot of sort of dark or strange or heavy music, but that's because I'm trying to get that out of me and off of me in a way. But really, my favorite thing in the world is to see people laugh and to make people laugh, or be part of that contagious laughter that you're talking about. Yeah. That's the thing I love the most, actually.
That's actually a lovely thing to say, to be part of that contagious laughter. And that's brilliant. Yeah. And you were talking about, like, you've had some very deep thoughts and things, and you have some very interesting not opinions, but views on things. So I'm curious to see what's going to be the answer to this question. When you're going out to a gig, like today even, and you're going out and you're about to play a concert, and you're rehearsing, and you hear something in a song that you didn't play in the original studio version, and it sounds cool, and you kind of want to add it in. Would you ever change the track a bit each gig? Would you ever kind of add something if you liked it?
We do it every night. So I think of it this way: if you're blessed enough to get to do what I do for a living, the commitment I make is that we will rehearse till our fingers bleed. And then when we go out on tour, the reason we rehearsed is so that we can make it different every night. The rehearsal is about preparing yourself for the muscle memory to be able to change the set and also change the songs, oftentimes how they're played and what you're doing. Because it's not an office job. I'm not clocking in, and I'm not expected to make press the same widget in a factory every day.
Yeah.
I'm allowed to be free, and when people pay a lot of money and they have jobs they don't like a lot of times, and they just want to go to a concert and be free, and part of that freeing themselves is to watch someone else be free, right? It's about the contagious nature of it, you know, that is like a really good contagious. So every night has to be different, you know, every night, otherwise I'm gonna go home, you know, because I don't want it to be the same, because we have a lot of people in the front row that have gone to every show on this tour, and that's a really big commitment on their part. Even if it was only 5 people, I would see them every night. How could I possibly do the same thing or say the same thing, or I would be I'd be kind of screwing them over, you know. I think we're playing a show, but that's the reason to gather, and it does gather a community of people, and that community wants to have one moment away from reality so that they can have that freedom, and then take that freedom and put it back into their regular lives, you know. So I mean, yeah, I guess that's a really complicated way of saying the concert's got to be fun and they got to be new. They got to be new every night, you know.
That's really good to give back to the fans who are going on every concert of the tour.
Well, it's not just giving back to them. It's doing it
to
yourself too, right?
Yeah,
because I guess what it's doing is it's saying we are going to have a night, and it wasn't like last night. It's not like tomorrow, and it's ours. You know, tonight is our night. This is the last night of the tour. I guarantee you, tonight is ours, and we're sharing it with everyone that's here. You know.
Yeah.
And you couldn't quite get that if you just watched a video of it.
Yeah.
It's like tonight we'll get something that's ours, you know.
That's like really cool. And by the way, just I want to put it out there, I wasn't thinking that, it was just giving back to the fans, but it's a really good angle to also think about, because I didn't think about that when I was writing down these questions. So it was very interesting to hear that from you. And regarding like changes, because you change a lot of things, yourself, from your debut album Queen's Stone Age, with the band Queen's Stone Age, and now in Times New Roman with Matador Records, which is incredible, by the way, I love the album.
Thank you.
How do you feel like, what has been your biggest change as a musician since then for yourself?
Well, at this point now, there's a couple things that I always think of. I always think, how can I hold on to what's special, almost like taking an ember out of a fire and trying to keep that ember going from the first record. Like, what is it about the first record that what is the thing I can take that we've always had and still keep that fire going? And then how can I pair that with all the things I've learned? Because I've been on tour for 32 years. I'm 50 now. You know, I've been on tour for a long time, and I've been making records a long time, and I guess it's about keeping that newness. So I want to keep that special thing we've always had and put it with something brand new, you know?
Mm.
And I also think that you're a writer. You know, you're asking these questions, you're into writing, you've crossed things out, you've thought about things. You know, you have to write about the life you're living now, you know? And so I think the records are naturally different because I'm writing about not yesterday, not tomorrow, but right now, you know?
Yeah. That's, again, really, a lot of people, when they watch this interview, if they don't already have that kind of mindset, I think they'd be very kind of inspired by the way you look at things, because it's a very interesting, just a very interesting way to think as a person when you're doing everyday things. It is a very interesting way to think. So even myself, even though, as you said, I'm a writer, I've looked into all these things, I'm still going to take more than I've learnt about you from the research here than the research.
Yeah, me too. I will too. I'm enjoying this. Yeah.
We'll talk about enjoyment. We're going to have a bit of fun now. We're going to do some quick fire questions. Now, I know we were already having fun, but just...
No, let's pump it up.
Yeah. So first of all, out of all the people you've met on tours, anything, have you actually ever been starstruck?
You know, that's a great question. Yes, a couple times. Not a lot of times. Most people, you went to school with someone just like them and you enjoy their company, but feeling like, oh my God, that doesn't happen. I think, strangely, when I met the singer for this band GBH, his name's Colin, and I got to have tea at his house, and I was with the Screaming Trees. I didn't know what to say because I just grew up listening to this guy. So I think oftentimes the moments I've been a little starstruck is because it's attaching to things when I was a kid, you know. There's another guy named Jackson Brown, and he's like a singer-songwriter. And when I got to interview him like we're doing now, and the conversation turned into a 3-hour conversation and all this stuff. And I just thought, wow, this is really cool, you know? I really enjoyed that conversation. I got a lot from it. So Jackson Brown and Colin from GBH, yeah.
That's actually some very interesting people to be starstruck by. Like,
it's very disparately far
I know,
apart, yeah.
like you've talked to some incredible people, but that's, I see what you mean though. For example, like where you're saying with GBH, first of all, I've grown up with you. When you come in, I was like, I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. Then with Ian MacKaye, when he hopped onto a meeting with me on the computer, I was like, oh God, this guy's my hero.
He's a total inspiration.
Exactly.
Too, because, I mean, you look at that guy, Ian MacKaye, and what has he done? I think it's inspiring to watch people do it their way and enjoy themselves. You know what I mean? And enjoy themselves doing it. So own his own band, his own voice, his own record label, and he never needed to sort of, you know, in this crazy business part of this, people want to buy you. You know, they want to buy you. They want to, if you have something good going, they're like, I don't want to do anything about it. I just want to buy a part of it from you. I just want to take it from you using money. But money doesn't mean anything, you know? If it were teddy bears, you'd be carrying teddy bears around. Money's just some example, right?
Yeah.
So, so it's nice to turn down the money. It feels good, you know? Yeah. Because your time and your energy, that's all that is worth anything, right? The money doesn't, people are just trying to take money to buy your time and energy, right?
Yeah.
So when you hold on to your time and energy and you give it to something you care about, then the money doesn't matter. And I look at someone like Ian MacKaye and I'm like, there's somebody that did it their way and enjoyed it and did it for the right and does it for the right reason. It's hard not to be inspired by someone like that, you know.
You know, he's a massive inspiration to me. And quick little plug here, if you haven't seen my interview with Ian, you should definitely check it out on my channel because it's really, it's very interesting.
I haven't seen it yet, but I also recommend that you check out the interview with Ian MacKaye. Your interview.
He is a very interesting person, and if you don't know any of his music, definitely check out Fugazi and Minor Threat and the likes, because it's some very, like Queen's Stone Age, it's some very strange but interesting music. So, and now this is a very a question that I ask people, but I wanted to change it for you because I know you in the morning, and I think this is very cool. You listen to Cab Calloway and Dean Martin to get started off. But what music do you listen to in general? I'd like to divulge a little bit deeper into that.
I think one of the great things about technology is that is the function that says, oh, if you like this, then you might like this. right? It's just a nice.
Yeah.
So, I like going back in time and tracing something. There's a band I love called the Cramps, right? And the Cramps, yeah, I didn't know it at the time. I started buying their records at your age. And what I didn't know is, about half the songs they were playing were cover songs. So they were playing sort of obscure rockabilly covers, and I didn't know. So I loved tracking back and listening to the original artists. Like there's a guy named Charlie Feathers, and I just thought, isn't that the coolest name ever, Charlie Feathers?
Yeah.
And he's like a rockabilly, hillbilly guy. So I've been listening to a lot of sort of early rockabilly, hillbilly music lately.
I didn't expect that answer, to be honest.
I didn't expect to get it.
I didn't expect it at all, but that is... I like the answer nonetheless. And also, you were talking there about, like, older music and chasing back. Have you been listening to any new music at the moment?
Yeah, it's harder to listen to music today for me, for some reason, because there's so much music that sometimes it almost feels like a static curtain. I don't know where to start. Again, I'm thankful for if you like this, then this. So, there's a band called the Viagra Boys that I really like. And I've been listening to a lot of Alison Goldfrapp. You know who that is?
I actually have a CD of Alison Goldfrapp, The Love Invention.
I love Goldfrapp,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like to dance around the dressing room before we go on, because I want it to just be like I want to feel like oh yeah, let's go do this. So you may not know this, but we're all sort of dancing around backstage. So we've been listening to a lot of Alison Goldfrapp lately.
That's wow, and especially with like when you said, "Do you know Alison Goldfrapp?" I went, "Yes, I do." That was like, that's when I go utter fanboy mode in my head, and I'm like, yes.
No, but you know what? It's so good to fanboy out, because what does that really mean? It just means there's something that you really like and that I like, and we both go, oh, that's the thing,
Yeah.
I mean, that means that we're bonding over things we like, and that's the only thing worth bonding over,
That's a very deep comment, and that's, again, very inspirational. Very inspiring quotes from this interview.
I'm like a Hallmark greeting card right now. Yeah.
And now, for my final question, it's actually a question from me instead of being an interview as a friend. I'm learning guitar. As you know, I'm only 12. I've got tiny fingers. I am not very good, admittedly. I've been learning for 2 years, and I try, and I'm going to keep trying. But what tip, for my last question I wanted to ask you, what tip would you give to me?
About playing guitar specifically?
Yeah, playing
I'll
guitar.
give you two. I'll give you one about the actual function of it.
Yes, we're getting a bonus here.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yes, for free. Free of charge, one extra bonus. So, in terms of playing guitar, for years I've always gripped everything just like I'm going to grip the guitar.
Oh, God.
And I think the key is to just not push too hard, right? Follow the guitar where it goes. Don't push too hard, right? That's what I think. When I'm playing my best, I'm not trying to force the guitar. I'm just trying to follow it, And the second thing is, look, I had polka lessons when I was your age.
Yeah, very interesting.
And I didn't love it. But because going oompa, oompa, like polka for a 12-year-old is not always the best thing. But so I gotta admit, I didn't practice all the time, but I did play all the time. I played, and there's a difference. There's practice is right. So there's practice, but playing was I was doing open tunings and drop tunings and realizing the guitar's whatever I say it is, and I was playing all the time. So even though I wasn't really practicing, I was playing, and so I think you should You know, the funny thing about the word play is it's the word used when you're little. When you're 5, you say, "Do you want to play with me?" to your friends. But I'm still saying that to my friends, and I'll say it right before we go on stage. You know, it's just a natural thing. So it's that element of play. I still have to play guitar. It is like, it's like a friggin' toy. So I think when you look at it that way, forget the practice and just keep playing.
Yeah, wow. Thank you. I really appreciate that advice.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. So, that was my final question. I had a load here, and it was very interesting to hear your answers. I didn't know what to expect. So thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think I said that wrong. I think it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
It's just been so fun, and make sure that if you're a fan of Josh or Queen's Stone Age or anything, we didn't even speak about Eagles of Death Metal and Desert Sessions and everything, but if you're
save it for another episode.
Yeah. If you're a fan, please make sure to subscribe, because we've got loads of other interviews up. It's just that short little plug there.
You have to subscribe now.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.